Hi everybody, what's up? This is the art, business, and craft of web design, and my name is Brad Hussey, and today we're going to be doing lesson 2 of our free web design course for total beginners. Sounds good? Let's do it. Hey again everybody, Brad Hussey here, and once again this is a free web design course, and this is video number 2 called the C.R.A.P principles. And in this video we're going to learn a principle that is, well, you know what, let's just share my screen here and I'll show you all about it. I got a little presentation queued up. All right, the C.R.A.P principles in web design. Let me make this look a little nicer. Great. So what is the C.R.A.P? What are the C.R.A.P principles? Well, the C.R.A.P principles, this is a term coined by Robin Williams. Sorry, a little typo there. Robin Williams, not the actor, an author of the book called The Non-Designer's Design Book. Feel free to check that out on the bookstores. It stands for contrast, repetition, alignment, and proximity. These are 4 principles in design, visual design, but in the context of this, web design, that help you to understand what makes design make sense, what makes it work, what makes it good. And this, as you can see, like these principles have nothing to do with the tool you're using, nothing to do with, you know, Webflow or Squarespace or anything like that, you know, or HTML, CSS. It doesn't matter what you're using. Contrast, repetition, alignment, proximity are all things that can be applied to whatever you're using, okay? And so let's use some examples to show why these principles help you to make good sites. So the best way I know to show you how these make sense is to pull up some really good sites. So award-winning sites, people who are really talented designers and win awards for their designs. Not me. I think I submitted my site to an award site one time, and let's just let's not go there. Okay, so share my screen again. Here we go, screen, boom. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna start with contrast. Contrast is when things have contrast, when there's a clear difference between elements. And so in web design, you normally do that in like your typography or your color choices. When you have colors that are too close together, like let's say you have black and you have gray, that's not a lot of contrast. Black and white, lots of contrast. And so the contrast can kind of draw focus towards certain elements, or it can create more impact, or it can have kind of a louder voice versus something, or visual kind of communication, whereas something that has less contrast, and if that's an intentional choice, it's more gentle and you might not want to draw certain attention to certain areas. So I just looked at under siteinspire.com, great website. If you go to styles, you could just check out all these different categories here. And I just chose black and white because black and white, typically you're going to see some contrast because black and white. Let's see here. Here's a good one. We're going to go to Creative Cosmos 15 and check this site out. Look at this. Big contrast. Looks like it's a German site, and they translated it. Thanks, Chrome. Couldn't read German. And you can see there's a lot of contrast here. Black and white, big, bold lettering, why, who, work, contact. You know, their logo, their branding here, it's all very bold. And there's a lot of contrast. It's black with white text. And let me just make it so you can see the screen better here. There we go. Even this background image here, like they've got these like interesting style. It's obviously an interesting choice, but there's a lot of contrast happening here. Okay, now we got a white screen with black text. That's cool. So that's another example of contrast, some strong contrast. I don't know what this does, negativelabs.com. Probably that's a website by them. So that's just one example there, black and white. Now, if I were to like go to another one, let's see here. You know who has good contrast? I can tell you right now, apple.com. They are very good at contrast and utilizing contrast for communicating design. They're all about simplicity. So we got white background here, very simple text, black text, and contrast. You see with these new phones, just like up front and center, and even with the colors on the white. There's less contrast here. This kind of fades into the black or out of the black, and it's kind of, that's meant to create this, I don't know, maybe seductive look. And for iPhones, for a lot of people, it's a very seductive item. You want to have that item, and it's exclusive and it's expensive. People like that. But contrast, so you can see there's very clear use of contrast here. And the point of contrast is to create kind of impact and to draw attention and to create structure. If everything was just kind of meshed into everything, then it would be hard to differentiate between items, between elements. And, you know, you could see they're using contrast here. If all of this was black and there was no contrast, then you wouldn't know the difference between, it would be hard to visually kind of organize the watch with the iPad Air, with the laptop here. Same thing with this. Like they're very clearly going with this high contrast choice. Now, if I were to go to, here's another, and you could play around with this. So go to these sites, siteinspire.com, awards.com with 3 W's, AWWARDS.com, and you could just like search like contrast and see examples, award-winning examples of contrast. And you could just explore and see how contrast is used by really talented designers, and how it, you know, look at the site not just as a user, but look at it as like a designer or somebody who's learning design, and how contrast is used to differentiate between items and text and typography and organizing the site. So that's contrast. Now the next element is repetition. So that's when you create repetition. It shows that the more something is repeated, it shows that there's a purpose or an intention or meaning behind that repetition. If something just shows up once, that has a different impact design-wise than if something shows up multiple times. If something shows up 3 times, or something shows up throughout your page, let's say a call to action, for example, a button on your website that calls your viewer, your user to action. So let's say it's a product page. Repetition, let's go back to the Apple example, because the designers here, they know what they're doing, and they're very good at this. So if I were to go to like the iPad, now repetition, you could see it right here, repetition of the iPad. It's creating this flow by repeating the elements. It shows that this is important. Now you can repeat something and have it be bad and have it look bad and have it make no sense. Like if they repeated the word, for example, iPad Air, and they put iPad Air, iPad Air, iPad Air, iPad Air, it wouldn't really make sense. It would actually distract, and it wouldn't be very helpful. But repeating the visual element of the actual product, it's the product that they want to draw attention to, that they want to capture your desire for. They want you to have this. Now, another thing that you can see here that this does is it actually makes me want to scroll down the page, right? It's creating this flow, this flow where I want to follow it. It's almost like it looks like it's falling or it's cascading down the screen, and I can't help it but scroll. Okay. Again, and look at the simplicity here and the contrast, the white background, nothing in the background, and just iPad beautifully presented. And repetition, you're repeating the iPad. The iPad is showing up in every frame here. There's nowhere that the iPad doesn't appear. So it makes me, you know, it kind of embeds it into my brain that this is important. Okay, so this is repetition. And another thing of repetition, it's not just repetition of the visual element, it's repetition of this structure. So if you look at the structure here, you've got, can you see my little cursor there? Okay, look at this. So we've got this section. This is a section. Now there's another section here, and it's a reversed layout. So here's the first section. text on the left, image on the right. So this is, they're balancing one another out, okay? And on the right side here is the image, but then below it, on the left side is the image. And they're both taking up about 60 to 70% of that section. And so there's repetition of the image on one side, the text on the other, and then they're switching that. And then they're repeating that back and forth. Now look, the image is on the right, the text is on the left. Image is on the left, text is on the right. Do you see that pattern? That's repetition in motion, in play, kind of in practice. That's what the word I was looking for. And let's see here. So that would be repetition. Maybe if we were to go to awards.com, let's just like choose, let's just look at like the latest award-winning site and let's see what we can find. All right, so this X podcast, EXP, I don't know. It's the Centre de Musique Baroque Versailles. That's my best butchering of the French accent. Music and musicians at the Royal Chapel. Okay. Right here, I can see that there's not a lot of contrast, and that's clear. Like that's a choice. I got this kind of peachy, pinky color in the back that fades up to the blue, but it's gentle. It's very delicate, kind of like the art. This art in the background that you can see, like with the Baroque, kind of the chapel and like the art. It's like the delicacy to it, and so there's not a lot of contrast on purpose, and so they're kind of mimicking the actual physical experience, and it's delicate, kind of high end, high quality. Now we're going to enter, there's contrast here with the button, however, that's white, that really stands out. There's contrast. Okay, now let's find some repetition. Let's see here. Just kind of visual. Okay, repetition, I can see repetition here. It kind of works as repetition. Repetition of the layout, you could see here, we've got the layout here, image on the left, text on the right, image on the right, text on the left. Repetition of these icons. Okay. Oh, and it goes across. Okay, so there's repetition here. A lot of contrast too, as you can see. Beautiful visuals. Click and drag. Oh, now this is cool. Okay. Now that wouldn't fall under a principle of the contrast, repetition, alignment, and proximity, which we'll get to those other two in a moment. This is more of, this is less of a principle and just more of like a visual kind of accent. It's not necessary for the meaning of the site. Like if they didn't have this feature, it wouldn't take anything away. It's not necessary for the design, but it is quite beautiful and it is an intentional choice. Let's see, we got more repetition of these full background images with the art in the background. You can see they're repeating it and what it's doing. So see, there's another accent there, and then there's gonna be another one there. They're repeating that down the page, and that's creating repetition, and it's drawing attention, and it's also creating a pattern disrupt. Okay, when you have too many repetitions of the same thing, then it kind of blurs into one another. Whereas when you create a pattern disrupt in your repetitions, then you can draw attention. So for example, back to Apple here, they're creating patterns, a repetition here with the text image, image text, text image, image text. But you see how they're flipping them back and forth each time? That's to create visual interest and to create pattern disrupts, okay? Now, if they kept doing this down the page, image text, text image, image text, so on and so forth, and they kept doing it all the way down, you'd actually get bored and then you'd bounce off the page. That's why they created a pattern disrupt here. They changed the pattern. Okay, now next in our design principles and the C.R.A.P principles is alignment. Alignment is another principle in design where it's actual how you align elements, how you align, and this goes for anything that you interact with. So your phone, the alignment of the notifications, the alignment of the icons on the screen. If you were to have a book, this is just a notebook, so this doesn't have any, I can't give you an example of this book, but when you read an actual book or a novel, there's alignment of the text. There's alignment of how the text is organized. Specifically in a magazine, there's going to be alignment of different sections. A newspaper, there's going to be alignment of maybe the classified ads and the main article, maybe a secondary article, or maybe just kind of like a little ticker at the bottom. Like there's going to be alignment, and that's literally like the organization, the layout, the alignment of what you see, okay? And it's not just anywhere, because if it's anywhere and it looks like chaos and there's no rhyme or reason to it, then that's going to be chaotic and it's going to be hard to understand, and it's actually going to create dissonance, and your viewer, your user is not going to be very happy. Okay, so let's go back to the screen here and just find some examples of alignment. All right, so here is Apple again. I just got it pulled up. Alignment, 1, 2, 3, 4. Look at these 4 things. The alignment, these are all columns. This is a 4-column layout, and those are all aligned perfectly. The lines here are aligned perfectly. The images are aligned. No matter, even if the images are different size products, it's still aligned here, aligned at the bottom. The title of the product is aligned perfectly. Everything here is aligned, okay? The information is organized and aligned in a way, creating repetition, okay, and contrast, black and white here, to create more meaning for each of these products. So we could take all this information, jumble it up, and put it all over the screen, and it would make no sense, and nobody would buy iPads, at least from this website. But when it's organized in such a manner and the alignment is in place, the contrast is there, the repetition is there, it actually creates a lot of meaning. And now I understand the specs of the Pro, the Air, the iPad, and the Mini. Here's some more alignments. You got, this is a 2-column layout, one here on the left, one on the right. That's the alignment. 3-column layout, alignment. Everything is on a grid. On the web, with some exceptions, everything is on a grid. It's all grid based. Often 12 columns, sometimes 16 or 18, 24, but usually 12. And everything's on a 12 column, or at least a column based grid. So there's always the center, there's always columns. There could be 3 columns. These 3 columns are going to be the same as 3 columns elsewhere if they use it. So far I see a lot of 2 columns. There's a lot of repetition here, and you can see the alignment. Everything is aligned in these grids. All of these blocks are the same height as well. So there's alignment. Lots of 2 columns here. But even see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is a 5-column here. So they're taking this content, this information, which is a lot, and organizing it in 5 columns, small text, low contrast, because they don't want to draw too much attention to the footer. It's more for secondary or tertiary information. But that's an example right there perfectly of alignment at work. Okay. Probably on other sites here, if I were to go to awards again, or maybe what I'll do is I'll go styles, see if there's a grid layout. Perfect. Take off black and white. Here's going to be another example. You're going to see a lot of grids here. Let's go to, let's use this one, Minimalissimo. Okay. Minimalissimo.com. Okay, it's alignment, simplicity here, contrast, alignment. Everything here is in a 2-column grid. We got 3 columns. You can see the grid at use here, at play. Alignment down here. Very simple. That's alignment, and it's everywhere. And if this was just everywhere, disorganized and chaotic, because there was no grid and no alignment, then it would be a total mess, okay? So that's the other principle, which is alignment. And the final principle is proximity. When the proximity of an element or text or one thing to another, that creates either tension or meaning, or it creates and communicates something. So proximity is how close or how far something is from one another. And you can combine these using contrast and repetition, using contrast and proximity, alignment and proximity. Like you combine these principles in however many combinations, do the math. I think it's 4 times 4. I don't know. And you get lots of different combinations, and you play with these things. So again, we're going back to our tried and true Apple here. We got proximity. The proximity of this information here shows that they are grouped together. This is clearly because of the proximity of each of these clickable items here, interactive items here, shows that there's meaning and they're all related. And they are, because if you maybe you want the iPad Air, or no, maybe it's the mini I want to actually compare it. And then here's some accessories. So all these are organized. If these were just peppered throughout the site, it wouldn't make any sense. And I wouldn't know how to get to these different areas. Proximity of this text right here to the image shows that there's connection that they're related. Let's see some more proximity. Proximity of these. The proximity of each of these items, they're grouped together, and it shows that there's this information has meaning and it's related. The proximity of each of these specs, it's a compare. You want to be able to compare the iPad Pro to the mini. So I could see really easily, what if I want the mini? I like it's $399, but you know what? The Pro would be nice because of the big screen, but the price is, so it's the organization and the proximity of this information gives it extra meaning. By simply putting this information in this manner, I can see that I'm meant to compare which product I want. Okay, proximity of this organization. These are just extra features kind of to boost your confidence in purchasing this thing. Let's see. Here's a good example. At the footer of any website, proximity of all of this information together. This is the footer. The proximity of each of these menus show that this is kind of tertiary information on the site. If you want to be able to find extra stuff, get more resources, find discounts, find a store, this, that, and the other thing. The proximity of this information, especially let's say this list, shows that, okay, this list in proximity to this header shows that everything under here is shop and learn kind of related. So I want to shop and learn music. I want to shop and learn the iPod Touch, gift cards, accessories, and so on and so forth. The proximity of this information, that kind of at the bottom of the footer, copyright information, privacy policy, terms of use, these are usually grouped together and are in close proximity. Same as the menu. If I were to go here, where's their menu? So they've got their menu here. The proximity of this information shows it's their key information. This is their key navigation. Okay. Proximity of, let's use the awards.com site. The proximity of each of these together, it's very obvious that these are related, but then they don't all blend into one another. If I hover over one of these, the proximity of, say, these interactive items like sharing on social, I want to add this to my favorites. I want to go to the link to view the site itself. That the proximity of that data information in that box gives it meaning. And so those are rather the principles, the C.R.A.P principles: contrast, repetition, alignment, and proximity. You can combine them, you can use them in different areas, but these are key principles, whether you like it or not, or whether you realize it or not, that every website, every good web designer worth their weight in salt should be using. And you may be using them and not realize it. And if you don't realize it, you might not be using it very well. So C.R.A.P. Contrast, repetition, alignment, proximity. Think about that every time you start designing. Look at it in your magazines and your books, on websites. You'll start to notice it now, and maybe take notes and see what works and what doesn't. So with that, I hope that was a helpful video for you, and let me know in the comments below what you liked about this video, what you want to see next in this course, what you want to learn more about web design, and don't forget to subscribe, like the video, leave a comment, and we'll see you in another video. All right, cheers.